Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Sable International Citizenship Podcast. My name is Shannon, and I'm here with Michelle Patel, Director of our Immigration and Citizenship Division. To recap, in the seven-part series, Michelle and I will explain in detail all the routes to British citizenship for children under 18. We have already covered routes to citizenship by birth and descent through a parent and through a grandparent. Today's episode will focus on the complex and rare route to British citizenship by triple descent, so through a grandparent. You can find a transcript and the episode show notes on our website, www.sableinternational.com. Michelle, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm just glad to be doing this again. It's actually been quite busy here in the UK. We've had great weather, which is really different from I think where you are, which has been quite miserable,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
so different. It's so cold
Yeah,
right here. I'm sure you.
yeah. No, so it's been sunny skies in the UK. However, that's not been too reflective on the whole immigration side of things. That's not been quite sunny side up as such. We've got a few matters that have come to light. I guess to start off with, just as an update, I think it's worth our listeners knowing that the electronic visa that we talked about in the last podcast has now been costed up, so it's going to be £10, which is actually quite nice one way. However, it's not open to everyone yet. In fact, it's only going to be open later this year, I believe, to those who are from Qatar to start off with, and then it's going to open up to the rest of the UAE. So they are picking and choosing which countries they want to open it up to, but this will be an electronic visit visa for £10, which will be valid for 2 years. So kind of similar to, I believe, the one for the US, which is the S.2. So, we look forward to it being sort of expanded out, hopefully to other countries and other nationalities. So that's number one. Number two, like if it wasn't obvious, there had to be a court case about it, which there was. The sort of justice court decided to just confirm that ever since we left the European Union, British citizens are no longer considered EU nationals for the purposes of other rights in other EU countries. So although it may have seemed obvious, it was settled at court level. So that means any British citizen would no longer be considered an EU citizen for that purpose. Lastly, we also had a emergency piece of legislation brought in to protect the British nationality rights for those who were given British passports because they were born in the UK between the 1st of January 1983 and before the 2nd of October 2000 to EEA citizens exercising treaty rights in the UK. So these children, and the reason why this emergency legislation had to be brought in was because the courts actually did decide that, or did confirm that actually these kids were given British passports in error when they shouldn't have been British. And the Home Office saw part of that issue, and so was the Passport Office. So just to protect these people from losing their rights now, the emergency legislation had to be brought in. We have done a little blog write-up on that should be available to our listeners in the next couple of weeks. So look out for that for a more detailed write-up on what exactly has happened there and what is this new piece of British nationality law that's been brought in. So yeah, on that realm, a little mixed bag of updates for you guys listening to this podcast.
Thanks for that. So, coming to the main topic, triple descent. How is this different than claiming citizenship by descent or double descent?
So yeah, thanks. Quite different. Usually, in cases where you have triple descent claims, Shannon, you do have a British parent, but the parent's born out of the UK. So the applicant, being the person trying to claim, is born out of the UK. The British parent is born out of the UK. And in fact, in this case, unlike the last time we did this podcast on double descent, in this case, even the grandparent is born out of the UK. And usually it's the great-grandparent born in the UK. So when you're looking at triple descent, it's from the great-grandparent to the grandparent, from the grandparent to the parent, and from the parent to the applicant, which would normally be someone that's, say, under 18 now, or it could also be someone that's over 18. So the claim does have to come through a great grandparent's birth in the UK, usually. But when you're talking about how many lines of descent that citizenship passes, it's three.
So I know a lot of people would appreciate me asking this. So
Cool.
can you briefly describe certain routes by triple descent with examples of past cases that you might have encountered?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So specifically, I would say there are three main ones that I found to be the most common ones that I've seen from people who are South Africans, for example, or people from that region. So the first one that kind of we see regularly more than the other two, which I'm going to describe, is it's definitely a triple descent rule where the applicant is could be someone that's under 18 or over 18, born in, let's say, South Africa, and the relevant parent is born in the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. A, a, a big word, but what I really mean is someone born in Northern Rhodesia, so the parent born in Northern Rhodesia, which is now Zambia, before independence, but during the time they formed part of the Federation. Now, the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland was just basically a fancy way of saying three countries were brought together to as sort of a gang to cause this federation to be part of the independent Commonwealth realms. Now that happened between 1958 and the last day in 1963. So you want this parent to be born between 1958 and the last day in 1963 in Northern Rhodesia. Now, the relevant parent's parent, so now this is the applicant's grandparent, for example, should always be born outside of Northern Rhodesia, let's say South Africa, and their parent born in the UK. So a bit complicated, but just to recap, someone born out of the UK who is inclined to claim citizenship by triple descent can be born in South Africa over 18 or under 18. Parent born in Northern Rhodesia during the specific federation time. Their father born in, let's say, South Africa, with a great and their paternal grandfather born in the UK. Now, the relevant parent's mother should always be born in the UK. All right. In this very specific set of circumstances, what we ended up finding was that the parent becomes a British citizen, otherwise than by descent, which means any child born to them out of the UK will be automatically British, only because their nationality was not acquired through descent, it was actually acquired through the federation or birth in the federation. In other words, in Northern Rhodesia, whilst it was part of the federation. And also, they would have the right of abode in more than one way because they had a parent born in the UK, which in this case would be the grandmother of the applicant born in the UK. So again, what we will try and do, just for the ease of reference and ease of understanding, is hopefully provide a sort of diagram to go with this podcast, maybe perhaps in the notes. So we'll try our best to do that, and hopefully you guys listening can kind of compare your family tree, especially when you have a grandparent born in the UK with a mother born or father born in Northern Rhodesia. It will be worth looking out for that family tree. So that's hopefully made some sense, but that's one of the ways you can get citizenship by triple descent.
Sounds complicated. Are you referring to the applicant's father who gets citizenship other than by descent?
Correct. Yes. It could be the father, it could be the father or the mother.
Okay, okay.
So coming to the second example, where you can get citizenship by triple descent, this is where you have the father or the mother born in a UK colony. This is different than where previously I said Northern Rhodesia, because Northern Rhodesia was a British protectorate, slightly different type of UK territory, whereas a colony is under full control of the UK. In this example, let's say you have an applicant born in South Africa, under 18 or over 18 now, parent, let's say the father, born in Kenya colony, which could be, say, Nairobi, for example, his father, born in South Africa, and his mother, born in the UK. In this particular scenario, you have the father picking up UK nationality by his birth in UK colony, and through his mother's birth in the UK, he will be reclassified as a British citizen, otherwise than by descent, which means, again, you have a scenario where that nationality jumps from either a great grandparent or a grandparent to the father then to the child. And the child then becomes an automatic British citizen by descent at the time of their birth, even if they're born out of the UK. So again, you have a scenario where British nationality can come down those three generations, so the third generation born out of the UK, if you really see it that way. So that also could perhaps be the case for some of our listeners who are parents born in UK colonies before independence, with perhaps the relevant parent's paternal grandfather, beg your pardon, born in the UK, and grandmother born in the UK as well. So that's the second one. Any questions on that, Shannon? Did that make sense?
Yes, that made sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Third example that I have for our listeners today, Shannon, is again a triple descent, of course, route to citizenship or British citizenship. It's actually a little bit different because the previous two routes, we talked about the relevant British parent being otherwise by descent, which would allow the nationality to pass automatically to the person claiming it in the modern day. In this case, the relevant parent would be British by descent. Okay, so we would then be looking to register their children. So they have to be under 18 at the time of the application. So this specific route is for those who have children who are under 18. You, the parent, would be British by descent and having spent 3 years in UK before the child's birth. However, your parent, so the relevant grandparent here, let's say it's the paternal grandfather, because the father is the one who's British by descent, Shannon, and the father is the one who spent 3 years in the UK before the child's birth. But let's say the paternal grandfather was born in South Africa at the time that his father was in Crown service. So this would be the child's paternal great grandfather. So you could have a rare case where the paternal great grandfather was born in the UK, was in Crown service at the time the paternal grandfather was born in South Africa. That's the British South African Police, which is a big Crown service claim they receive from South Africa. That would give the ability for the grandfather to pass on his nationality to relevant father here, which would be the parent in question. The parent then becomes British by descent, spent 3 years in the UK before the child's birth, let's say studying here, and then he has a child now who's under the age of 18. This would be a triple descent solution for this child to be now registered as a British citizen without coming to the UK at all, just through the paternal great grandfather's Crown service, allowing the British nationality to go 3 generations. Obviously, the last generation that's trying to claim it now would have to register as a British citizen as compared to just apply for a British passport. So again, quite rare. We don't see those often, but I've seen about 3 examples so far in the last couple of years where that's successfully been argued out by us.
Amazing. So you mentioned Crown service. I know we discussed this in relation to double descent as well in previous podcasts, but what is the most common type when it comes to South Africans?
Yeah, that's a good question. Absolutely. So British South African police is one of the most common ones we see for those of South African descent or birth. So this is specifically, we see it a lot where you have the relevant parent born in southern Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, because I think there was quite a big presence for the British South African police in Rhodesia or southern Rhodesia during the UDI times and just before that. So that's the most common one. The second most common one would be actually civil officers. So civil officers could also range from teachers. So I've seen a lot of teachers being sent from the UK to southern Rhodesia, for example, to teach in those schools there. That would also amount to Crown service, would you believe? Because these teachers were teaching in government schools, nurses, veterinarians, and also agricultural officers is another big one as well. There was, like I said, quite a big recruitment drive for people from the UK going to southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, as civil officers in this different type of government jobs. But teachers and British South African police, top my list. I see it all the time.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for
Pleasure.
your time. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. I hope you'll all join us for our next episode in this podcast series, which will be British citizenship through adoption for children under 18. See you all then. Bye.